The carnivore diet is trending. Podcasts, TikTok, YouTube, all filled with stories of people who gave up plants and claim they've finally got their lives back. And if you're living with a chronic illness, it's easy to feel like, if nothing else is working, maybe I should try this too. But sometimes, the things that feel good in the short term can actually lead us further from recovery. Today, I want to explain why the carnivore diet, despite its hype, could backfire, especially in post-viral illnesses. First, let's clear up a major point of confusion. A carnivore diet is ketogenic, but not all ketogenic diets are carnivore, and that difference matters a lot. I've supported ketogenic diets for years as a therapeutic tool for post-viral conditions, not because they're trendy, but because there's real science behind them that may target the same systems that are dysfunctional in these conditions. You can find a whole video on that topic linked above. Keto can reduce inflammation, improve mitochondrial function, and enhance energy metabolism when it's done correctly. That kind of keto, though, includes plants, especially non-starchy vegetables, herbs, spices, and fermented foods. These foods provide the antioxidants, polyphenols, and fermentable fibers that help regulate immune responses, feed the microbiome, and support the gut-brain axis, all vital factors in post-viral illness treatment and recovery. A carnivore diet eliminates all of that. It's meat, eggs, animal fats, and sometimes dairy. A very strict version even cuts out herbs and spices. While both diets can promote nutritional ketosis, carnivore excludes all plant-based foods, which are essential in the therapeutic ketogenic approach. Let's now look at 5 reasons why this trendy diet may backfire in post-viral illness. Fiber isn't just about helping our bowel movements. It's about immune regulation, gut barrier function, inflammation, and even brain health. And for people with post-viral illness, fiber becomes even more important. When we eat fermentable fibers like resistant starches and insoluble fibers, our gut bacteria ferment those fibers into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Butyrate is a postbiotic, meaning it's a byproduct of bacterial fermentation. But butyrate is also a signaling molecule, and it communicates with our immune system, it reduces oxidative stress, nourishes the gut lining, and supports deep restorative sleep. The problem, though, we already know the butyrate levels are low in those with ME/CFS, long COVID, and also fibromyalgia. Studies have shown both reduced levels of butyrate-producing bacteria and diminished capacity to make it. So when you remove all fermentable fibers, like the carnivore diet does, you risk pushing an already fragile gut ecosystem further into dysfunction. No fiber means no fermentation. No fermentation means no butyrate. And that can lead to increased gut permeability, heightened immune reactivity, poor sleep regulation, and more pain and fatigue. Even though reduced fermentation might temporarily ease bloating or food reactions, long-term, it's not a good idea. What looks like improvement might actually be a starvation response. You're not fixing the gut, you're just resting it. I'll go much deeper into butyrate's role in post-viral illness in the next video, so be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't yet and keep an eye out for that. Carnivore diets are high in saturated fat. Now, that's not inherently a bad thing, but in the absence of fiber and other plant compounds, it becomes problematic, especially if you already have insulin resistance, which many post-viral patients do, even if they're not overweight. Fiber blunts post-meal blood sugar spikes. It feeds good bacteria, and it supports healthy cholesterol balance. Without it, saturated fat may push blood lipids and inflammation in the wrong direction. And if you carry the ApoE4 gene, the risks are even higher. And up to 25% of the population carries this gene, so it's not rare. These people see more inflammation and higher LDL cholesterol on high saturated fat, low fiber diets. This is simply a recipe for future heart disease. The carnivore diet erases fiber, and that has downstream effects on cardiovascular health and metabolic regulation that can be especially risky for those already dealing with cardiac risk factors. We need microbial diversity to recover from chronic illness. The gut microbiome is already compromised in postviral conditions. Studies consistently show reduced microbial diversity, increased gut permeability, and a loss of beneficial species. Rebuilding that diversity requires specific inputs: fermentable fiber, polyphenols and flavonoids, plant-derived prebiotics. But a carnivore diet feeds the wrong microbes and starves the right ones. Polyphenols from plant foods act as selective prebiotics. They nourish the species we want and suppress the ones we don't. Remove them, and you lose that balance. I've even seen people in the carnivore community saying polyphenols are overrated. Wow, that couldn't be further from the truth. These plant compounds are some of the best studied, most potent food components for good health. Think green tea, blueberries, resveratrol, curcumin, cocoa. On carnivore, all of that is gone. So again, we're left with a fragile microbiome, no fiber, no polyphenols, and no way to rebuild the gut ecosystem. That's not a healing diet. That's microbial starvation. All overly restrictive diets increase the risk of vitamin and nutrient deficiencies on the long term. Carnivore is no exception. This diet risks deficiencies in magnesium, folate, vitamin C, vitamin K, and potassium specifically. The thing is, some of these nutrients are often already low in people with post-viral conditions. So why create a dietary environment that may worsen that? And what about hydration? I think this is an often overlooked consequence of the carnivore diet. Plant foods provide about 20% of our daily water intake. Remove them and your hydration status drops. For people with POTS or orthostatic intolerance, that's a big deal. They already struggle with fluid balance. The last thing you want is a diet that makes that even harder. One of the most common defenses of the carnivore diet is this: plants are full of toxins like lectins. Why would I eat something that causes inflammation? Lectins are carbohydrate-binding proteins found in foods like legumes, grains, and nightshades. And yeah, in high doses or when improperly prepared, they can provoke inflammation, especially in the most sensitive individuals. For people with increased gut permeability, which is very, very common in these conditions, these lectins may have more direct access to the immune system. Some in vitro studies suggest that they can stimulate toll-like receptors and cytokine release. But context really matters here. Despite popular claims, there are currently no high-quality human clinical trials linking lectin consumption to chronic disease symptoms in the population. In fact, many lectin-rich foods, when cooked, are associated with positive health outcomes, including improved metabolic and cardiovascular markers. The problem, therefore, may not lie in lectins themselves, but in individual vulnerability, particularly in those with impaired gut barrier function or even mast cell activation syndrome. So yes, lectins may be a problem in people with super sensitive systems, but the solution is not lifelong restriction. The solution is temporary restriction, proper food preparation, and then eventually reintroduction. Healing means increasing tolerance, not restricting forever. Now here's where it gets a bit tricky. Some people say carnivore changed their life, and I don't doubt that it helped them. But we need to ask, what did it help? Often people report less bloating, better digestion, clearer skin, and fewer food reactions. That's not because meat-only eating is magical. It's because removing fermentable carbs, fiber, and lectins reduces the burden on a stressed digestive system. It also highlights just how important gut health is to overall health and how gut health can produce various symptoms. One other key reason is FODMAPs, a class of fermentable carbohydrates found in many plant foods. FODMAPs stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. These are short-chain carbohydrates that feed your gut bacteria, and in a healthy gut, that's a really good thing. But in people with bowel overgrowth, dysbiosis, or other types of issues of the gut, FODMAPs can cause all kinds of symptoms: gas and bloating, abdominal pain, irritable bowel syndrome, and increased food intolerances to all sorts of foods. This is also why many with post-viral illnesses can't tolerate plant-based diets. You can check out another video on that topic specifically for more detail. So the carnivore diet cuts out all FODMAPs, and in this way, it acts as a kind of gut rest or reset. But this doesn't mean repair. Without a strategy for reintroduction, you're not solving the underlying issue, you're just dodging it. Whether it's dysbiosis, bowel overgrowth, mast cell activation, or impaired gut barrier, the solution isn't lifelong avoidance. It's simply not sustainable and carries far too many health risks. But a short carnivore stint may serve as a functional elimination diet for some. But the solution is building back resilience with careful reintroduction of foods. Look, I understand why people are drawn to carnivore. It's simple. It cuts out problem foods. It can feel like major relief. But in complex conditions like post-viral illness, we need to look past short-term symptom reduction and ask, is this really helping me heal? Carnivore might offer a temporary reprieve, but it's not a sustainable or safe solution for those with post-viral illness. The long-term health impacts of such a restrictive, plant-free diet have not been thoroughly studied in ancestral populations or in a clinical setting. In contrast, ketogenic diets and low FODMAP diets have been examined in numerous clinical trials. Both have been shown to be safe and effective when properly implemented. I invite you to share your experience with carnivore diets in the comments below. Also, in the video description, you'll find a link to the blog post this video is based on, which is where all research citations can be found. And be sure to check out my other work over on postviralnutrition.com, where I offer one-on-one help planning dietary strategies for you and in-depth online courses to help you develop your own dietary frameworks. Thanks so much for watching.
See you next time.